Hey everybody, welcome to a brand new season of Suits and Sports. My name is Ryan James and allow me to introduce you to our guest for today. He is an international sports lawyer currently working at Vandellos Sports Law, a sports law firm based in Spain. Without further ado, season 2, episode number 1 featuring Mr. Saksham Samarth. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm very good. All good here in Valencia. How about you? How are you doing? How are things in India?
So things are going good for me and everybody else in India. We have, since this show involves a lot of sports, we have the biggest sporting festival of the country going on, Indian Premier League. So yeah, it's going pretty well at the moment.
Nice, nice. I would like to thank GSPR for the invitation. And I would also like to thank you and Professor Shubhrijit Chanda. So thank you for the invitation, guys.
Definitely, sir. It's an honor to have you on board with us. Sir, so before we head towards the side of questions we want to ask you on, I want to ask you on a very, very, very informal note. You've been in Spain for quite some time. So in regard with sporting culture, what is something that you experienced in Spain that you could not experience in India?
Do you mean in terms of like on the playing side, organization, or on the legal side?
No, not on the legal side. In terms of experiencing a special type of culture or something like that.
Yeah, I can hear maybe compare cricket and football because even before the pandemic, I was regularly going to the Camp Nou to watch Barcelona and largely Lionel Messi. And I've been to a lot of games in the IPL and the 2011 World Cup, the 2016 Cricket World Cup in India, and some bilateral series. So in a way, it's quite comparable that the kind of passion that we have for cricket in India is as good as, or I may be able to equate or resonate with the passion these guys have here for football. But in terms of development, like because football is more global in comparison to cricket, I would say that these guys have a very good structure in place overall, in terms of from the youth or from the grassroots level to the top. And that is something we can borrow some parts of it in our different sports specifically, because cricket is like extremely developed and most of the youngsters in India would want to prefer that over any other sport. But yeah, it's like when I go to the stadiums, I have the same feeling when I go to the stadiums in India to watch a cricket game, that be it supporting your team in the IPL or be it supporting India. So that's something that lives with me here because I miss watching cricket in the stadiums. So that wish is in a way fulfilled when I go to watch a football game in the stadium.
So I'm going to put you in a tough spot and ask you if, let's say, there is a very important cricket match happening and there is also a very important football match on the same day, what are you going to watch?
If I have the option to go to the stadium, one, I would always prefer that because experiencing a live game is very different than watching on television or on the laptop. So your vibe, the feeling in the stadium, the excitement to watch with a group of people is something which does not match to anything else. So, but yeah, if not, I may have to balance between the two sports, like half watching football on one side, following cricket on the other side, and balancing the two. But yeah, whenever it's an option, like if I'm in India and if I can go to the stadium, I would skip the football game and go to the stadium. And if I'm in Europe, I will go to the stadium in whichever city I am. So
A true lawyer's answer. Like you ensured you there's no gray area.
covered both sides. But yeah, it's like you also want to have the best of both the worlds at your disposal. So
Very true, sir. So moving on, sir. So you were definitely a UG student. So I want to ask you, while you were a student, you would have obviously there would have been a time in your law school career where you moved towards the thought process that you want to do a master's in sports law. So could you please take us through what that 22 or 23-year-old law student was going through? Like what actually led you towards deciding that you want to do a master's? Because we always have that confusion whether we should do a master's or whether we should go work. So
In terms of sports law, like I would say that there's a general notion now that people think a master's is a prerequisite if you want to work outside India, but it is not. Like when I was in my law school or towards the final years of my law school, I always wanted to do something in sports law, but my ideas did not materialize back then. So I never immediately had a plan to come to Spain to do a master's or go anywhere else. It only materialized later. But in India, like you have a lot of, like now I would advise people to at least, like when you're in your third year or your fourth year, to try and get an internship with any of the teams, because we have so many leagues in India. So you have a lot of opportunities, not only in terms of law, but you can also do, marketing, sponsorship, management internships, because it's also very important to know the business side of the sport. So studying masters in sports law, I only gathered back, I think I would say in 2018, and I almost had close to 2 years of work experience by then. So I knew that I have not done anything prior in sports law. And when I was studying, there were not a lot of options. Like I think Nandan Kamath existed, Krida Legal just started when I think I was in fourth year, and we did not know a lot of people who went to FIFA Masters or SD and came back to India and started. And now we have a lot of options. So
right.
and back then it was like I had a tussle between trying to find something back there in India or directly moving to Europe, and I just decided to take that risk to come to Europe and study, and things worked out pretty well for me. But yeah, I would say that it's not a prerequisite. So you may also choose to start doing something within the sports industry, even if your ultimate goal is to go towards sports law.
Wow, that was a very descriptive answer, and I was closely listening to it entirely because I know I'm going to be in that spot very soon, and many other listeners of GSPR would be in that spot. So okay, so now if there was a situation where a law student has to, you know, decide on what kind of a, because right now if you look today we have multiple choices when it comes to doing sports law. So what do you think we need to look at? Because some people want scholarship, some people want, they just want, like you mentioned earlier, some people just want to get the job outside. So what do you think should be the basic thought perspective behind applying for a sports law course?
First, you need to answer yourself a question that what do you want at the end of like that course, or where do you see yourself like in a couple of years. So it's not always about getting an internship and getting a job. It's not an automatic process that you go outside India or even within India that you do a course in sports law or sports management as such. It's not like a byproduct. You go outside, you do an internship. It's not a routine thing. So you need to do your research very well as to what you want out of the course. When I was coming to ISDE,
Mhm.
I already had in mind what I wanted to do after ISDE. So I did not consume that time during ISDE to figure out what has to happen 6 months after ISDE. So it's the same, like you go to any other course, like there's GISB in Bombay. I think FIFA Masters has partnered with one of the universities and they are doing another course based in Bombay, I think. So even when you go to these courses, you need to know what they offer. Does it match what you want to do after you finish that course? And you need to speak to a lot of people. You need to do your research to find out what's your best fit, because one course might suit one person, it does not mean that it would suit you as well. So it's and I get a lot of queries from India, and what I understand is people still do not do the amount of research that they're required to do, because your goal should be what you want after that and you have to work towards that. And any of the masters or any other course that you do is part of that process, but you should not make the masters your only process. You have to do much more than what you're required to do. So that's something I would ask or suggest everybody to look at. And as I said before, try getting any sort of work within the sports industry, because the practical experience that you gain, irrespective of what area it is, that's something which is very crucial. And that's something I would tell you that when I look back upon things, I feel I could have done. That's the one thing I could have done differently when I was in my fourth year or fifth year, or when I just finished law school. So
Basically, you when you entered ISDE, your thought process was to work in Spain. Am I right?
yes, I kind of had some options in mind, who I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to collaborate with, or who I wanted to, where I wanted to go. So I had a basic idea of what they were doing. I wanted to do similar things. And so I had a very clear plan when I reached this day. And hopefully, and I'm very thankful that it worked out despite the pandemic, but it was not the same case for everyone else. So
Mm-hmm.
it may have worked out very well for me, but that does not mean it'll happen to everybody else as well. So it's both. It's a bit of hard work. It's tiny bit of luck as well, I would say. But it's like everything aligning at the same time, and I was there at the right place also to grab the opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Speaking on the same lines, so while you're at law school, you of course did secure the placement in an international firm. What do you like do? Obviously, everyone in your law school is particularly working towards that goal. So obviously, the ones who secure that particular placement are the ones who are doing something different. So what would you say is something different that someone would have to do in order to, get a placement offer?
It's more it's like I was never working towards a particular offer,
Mm-hmm.
but like even when I was in India, so I always knew that I did not have a prior working experience within the sports industry, which I somehow feel that people in Europe look at.
Mm-hmm.
So that gap, I was, or because I wanted to specifically work in the sports law area, I was regularly abreast of what is happening at FIFA, what is happening at the Code of Arbitration of Sport. I was reading articles, I was speaking to people. I was also offering people to, help them out with cases. They must be ongoing, because sports law is like a very niche area.
Right.
People work in very small teams. So, there are always chances that you offer some help, or you offer some guidance, like you speak to people, and if you're offering willing to help them to do a CAS matter or do a FIFA case, you get a lot of experience practically. And you also end up making relations with people, you network, so they help guiding you through your process. And it's just doing uh, things within the industry, so that you have a foot in the door, because it's a very small industry, it's a very niche area, and it's difficult to break in. And I would also suggest, the one thing to do is to write. There's a platform called Law and Sport, and I'm sure a lot of the viewers have already heard about it. And they encourage people to write, and they are not limited to. You could be a law student, you could not be a law student, you could be doing engineering somewhere, and you can still write an article there, as long as you have interest in the field and you pick up a topic which nobody's written about, you find something intriguing about it, and that's how it is. So when you write, you learn on the go. So like you have to find your own forte, and just keep looking at things that you have to do more and more.
Mm-hmm. So GSPR as well, writing
Yeah,
blog.
GSPR, and now I think there are a lot of publications. So it helps a lot, because for us also, as lawyers, when we write differently towards articles, because it's a different thing when I'm presenting a case before FIFA or CAS. But when I write an article, or generally like a chapter for a book, it's different, because my thought process, the way I write, is very different. And then I learn maybe a couple of new things as well. So
So you just mentioned about presenting a case before FIFA and CAS. So since a lot of us, including me, the viewers, we don't have an experience of that, and could you like just give us about what it is like to present a case before those two bodies?
So FIFA primarily being an association that governs football at a global level, they have their own set of regulations.
Mm-hmm.
And the main objective to have these different set of regulations is they have 200 countries who are member federations, and you cannot have national laws governing international disputes between a football player and a club, because you cannot take into account national laws of 200 different countries. So they
Correct.
have their own particular set of regulations which govern all of these relationships, and
Mhm.
that's how they detach themselves from the rest of uh, the laws that exist in the world. And before FIFA, it's like you have the regulations, and it depends a lot on uh, how you approach a matter. There are a lot of contractual disputes, barring the top five leagues in the world. Largely, everybody else has a lot of employment related disputes, transfer related disputes. So before FIFA, it's like the first instance body, and you also, in a way, have a chance to present your case in a way that you get a favorable outcome, because going to the court of arbitration for support in an appeal from a FIFA decision is kind of expensive. So not, if imagine your client is a football player and he might be playing in a country where his salary may not be very high, so
Mhm.
it's difficult if he loses in the first instance to go to appeal. But and CAS is a different scenario. Than in an appeal, you have also to take care of some aspects of Swiss law. You have to look at witnesses, you have to look at examination, cross examination. Then you also have the chance to go with experts. And it's again, because everything is in the realm of FIFA regulations, the system is designed in a very efficient manner, but it also requires a lot of expertise which people here have over a course of time, which it'll get to you, but it's not very difficult. But it's just a process which is relatively different than what we are used to in common or civil law countries. So
Wow, so that was really informative in regard with how procedures take place in CAS and FIFA. So I forgot to ask you amidst all these questions. So you are currently working at a law firm in Spain. So could you please take us through about the type of cases or the types of issues that you primarily deal with at your firm?
So we primarily like specialize in dispute resolution. My main area of work, I would say, like almost 80 to 90% is football. At times, I also deal with matters in tennis, in maybe basketball, in badminton, boxing, but it's largely football. And as I was mentioning, there are a lot of employment related disputes, and there's more to it. It's not always about a player not being paid. He might, be absent from training for a few days. He might have come overweight from a vacation. He might have a fallout with a coach. Coaches are not performing well. They get sacked. It's a very different narrative when they sack coaches. It's not a very simple case of termination. So I deal with all of these issues I would say, on a daily basis. Then during the summer and the winter period during transfers, we are also involved in a lot of transfers. So there are some basic disputes wherein clubs do not pay transfer fee. There are sell-on clauses that when you transfer a player from club B to club C, club A might have a percentage, and clubs do not end up paying these amounts. You have disputes on how you interpret the contract. At times, the drafting is very bad. So, so these are some issues in football that I regularly deal with. And a lot of times, what happens is English may not be the first language of the parties, or they might have different languages, and they might not have taken the help of a lawyer when drafting those documents. So it's like then you have a different interpretation to that document. I have a different interpretation, but and COVID has added to some of the financial difficulties. So I've lately also been dealing with a lot of insolvency related matters, because clubs are not being able to meet their requirements after COVID. So It's a very different. I juggle from one thing to the other. I love what I do, but yeah, this is what it is like. There is no 2 days are never the same. Suddenly one day we might be advising a club or a federation, or maybe at times FIFA, UEFA on some regulatory matters. To the other day I jump to a CAS case. To one day I have to prepare for a hearing. I have to prepare for cross examinations. So it's no 2 days are the same.
It sounds, as in, to me, it sounded fun, but obviously it would be fun only because it is sports law and I'm really interested in it. But I'm sure it must be really, really difficult to handle it like from a work perspective. And yes, sir, we all
Yeah,
know
it's
you're
like
doing.
sports law is also a culmination of everything. Like I deal with contracts, I deal with intellectual property. As I said, I deal with public international law at times. I deal with insolvencies. At times, you have to also read national laws for some countries which you are completely alien to. At times, there's a commercial dispute, there's a sponsorship dispute. So then you have to read different set of regulations. So it's a new challenge every day, but there are some basic principles like contract law. I would of course say is the most basic thing that we deal with on a genuine basis. But yeah, sports law, that way is a very good challenge because you're not restricted to, like I was doing tax in India. So some of the knowledge that I have from practicing in tax laws in India, I also get tax disputes here, like in the sports industry. So that helps me. So sports law is not always centered to one. It's not like because FIFA has association regulations, your disputes are centered to it. So it's like you are in the ocean and you are in the open ocean and you have a lot of challenges around. So
So you earlier were talking about several players coming up with you've dealt with multiple instances of players and the issues that they come up with. So I want to ask you, how is the education in terms of how is the education that's given to the players? Like if you look, India comparatively, all the athletes are not well educated about what are their rights or what are they entitled to do, especially in regard with contracts. So do you think that Europe has a better structure in terms of the players' knowledge or the knowledge that is given to them in order to avoid disputes?
uh, yes and no. Like because in Europe, what happens is if you consider the top five leagues, or maybe the top 7, 8, 10 leagues, they are relatively more privileged because they have more access. They have more resources, they have more money. So it's easy to, educate players at certain level or maybe coaches. But this is for me, maybe just 5-10% of football because we have a lot of clients from Africa, from Asia, from South America, North America, the Oceania region. So it's like if I see it collectively, we still are far off from, and FIFPro is doing a very good job. It's an organization that takes care of all the players at a global level. Generally, even if the players are educated, their rights are not very well respected. And that's the reason we have so many disputes regularly before FIFA and CAS. So I would say India is also, in the stage of development. We are on the right track. And it's like we're into that process of undergoing the revolution, undergoing the change. Of course, it will take a lot of time to reach where we want to reach. But overall, they know of their rights, but they are also, it's not a very straight line. It's like they at times know what to do, but ultimately they suffer. It's not easy for everyone. At times, like during the pandemic, it was a very big challenge because everybody wanted to reduce player salaries. At times players did not want to agree to those reductions, and there was a lot of dilemma. So we are moving in a direction where everybody is trying to become more and more aware, but it'll still take time, and it's not easy to reach where we want to reach. But yeah, we're slowly getting there.
Sir, so you've said earlier that you dealt with, like you said, you're into dispute resolution as well as you've argued before court. So I want to ask you, did have you ever done the ADRs or the moot competitions in law school, and did those particular competitions help you?
Like in a way, yes, because what happens is uh, you have to look at a case from a very different perspective. Like you have to study it well. Law school helps you build all of those practices. Like I was an active mooter when I was in my university, and I was not very good at academics, but I used to do all of these things because they help you from a practical point of view, that you have a case in front of you. How do you approach it? It helps you think a lot. You have to write, you have to research. So those are the times that I used to study a bit. I was with a firm, with a startup firm when I graduated from law school for 1 year, and for the next 2 years, I moved in a more advisory role with PricewaterhouseCoopers. So those times, those 3 years in India that I worked, also helped build the foundation that I have here. Because when I went now, when I go to court of arbitration for sport on a regular basis to argue cases, I feel that whatever I've gathered in the last 10 years since the beginning of my law school is helped me in some way. So I suggest it's also fun to moot when you are in law school, and you should also cover different areas of law, because then you gather more knowledge and you have different approaches. So but yeah, that's something I would always recommend, that should be on one of your top to do things when you are at a law school, because those are the things that you might not realize overnight, but in a larger perspective, when you look back, you will see that you've come a long way. And those were the times, those were the periods which help you come where you are today. So
I think that was a real eye opener because a lot of us do think, like, including myself, many a times when we think of, venturing into sports law, one thing is that, we often, I don't think like it never crossed my head to like particularly do a court internship. I always thought it's working from the office. So I think now that you said this, a court internship would definitely help one to gain perspective, the same in regard with what you were
and
saying.
yeah, even in 5 years of your law school, I think you should kind of see everything, so that you understand what you like more. You might make mistakes, and it's good to do that, but it's also like, at times I have a lot of friends who went to the bigger law firms in India, and then they realize this is not what they want to do, and then they do a court internship and they realize that they want to litigate, or eventually 5-10 years down the line they want to set up their own practice. And vis-a-vis, you have people who go to courts and who do not like it, and when they go to a firm they realize that this is what they want to do and they want to become a partner. So at times people figure out very early that they want to go into academics, and so it's like you should do all of that to understand what suits you the best, what you like, and everywhere there's something to learn. So you take the best from all of those places, you learn from your mistakes, and that's how you should process.
That's really great to know. As a person who's like who studied, who did his masters abroad and is working abroad, what would be your, concluding remarks that you would like to give to students who are, more like a motivating set of sentences that you would like to give all the students who are aspiring to, secure and achieve several things in regard with sports law outside India?
Like first I would suggest something which I told you, like I made a mistake, was one, start writing, because that'll help you read, you will research, and it's like challenge yourself on a daily basis. And two, it's like find work in India to begin with, within the sports industry. It may not be law, because of course it's not like, there are more students and there are less jobs, so it's not like everybody would land one immediately. But for me, I feel as a lawyer, it's very important to understand the business side. And in sports, the business side is not how we see the businesses of other companies or other sectors. It's very different. So these are two things I would say that you should do. And in terms of writing, like we have GSPR, Law and Sport, and many other websites, what will happen is, because if you have to write when you're putting something out in public, in a way you feel that it has to be objective, but you also have to write about things. So you will read a lot and you will research a lot. So that is something, today you realize there are two issues. You want to write about it. When you research and read, you learn 10 new things. And then one thing leads to the other, and it keeps, and then in a way you will have a habit of reading on a daily basis. So, and that's how I started when I was in India. I was working with PwC, but I was regularly reading stuff on the internet, connecting with people on LinkedIn, following what they are doing. So every day I was in a way getting some to know something about sports law, and I was getting used to things what is happening at FIFA, CAS, other in all other sports. Like I was never restricted to football. So
Mhm.
it's something you have to do, and I advise this whenever somebody connects with me through LinkedIn and they want to have a chat about doing a master's and how do you get, and I always give the same two advice, that start writing and find something to do within India to begin with. If you know that you can come to, do a master's maybe in the next 2 years, 3 years. So because India has that advantage, okay, cricket might be dominant, but we have domestic leagues for almost all the sports. So there's a lot of work out there, and there's always something to learn wherever you go. So
I think in regard to what you just said, the overall ambit of sports law also keeps on getting wider as we progress. Like we have gaming laws, betting laws, and even instances in sports. So
and
I
now
think
sports as well. So
right, so right. So
esports, in a way, the cryptocurrency area, the metaverse, NFTs. So this is something which has exploded in the last 1 or 2 years. So
mhm.
this is also something bidding sports lawyers can look at and research, because you have socios, you have the metaverse now, you have so many websites, La Liga, Premier League, the World Cup. Everybody's partnering with all of these websites. So clubs are getting into this business. So there's a lot of evolution happening on a daily basis, even for us as lawyers to keep up with. So
Mhm. That's really great. In regard to this entire episode, so it was a really fruitful session. We loved everything you said, and I'm sure it's going to benefit a lot of budding lawyers out there who are trying to, who are going to start venturing into sports law, especially those who are confused, as we had a good discussion and in regard with what to do when it comes to pursuing masters. So once again, sir, on behalf of Sportive Education and Global Sports Policy Review, I would like to thank you so much for taking time off your schedule, especially considering the fact that you're in a different country. So thank you so much for complying with our time zones. And once again, thank you so much, sir.
no worries. It was great speaking to you, and I would once again like to thank you and GSPR for inviting me and taking time out. And I would also like to say to all the viewers that anybody who wants to speak to me, like, feel free to message me on LinkedIn, and I'm always available up for a chat. And I always say this, that it's a two-way process. It's like I also learn something. So it's whenever you get new ideas and you learn new things. So it's always good to chat.
That's really nice of you, sir. So thank you so much, sir, and have a great day and a great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Same to you. Have a good weekend ahead. Thanks.